So we've just been talking about Alex Stays as Most Wanted and Guantanamo or whatever it was, but we're here to talk about the game.
You bet.
And basically, what are you guys showing off here at Gamescom? You're really closing in on that release. What are you showing people here?
We're in the final few months of development on Need for Speed Most Wanted. We've been working on this game for 2 years now at Criterion. What we're here showing off today at Gamescom is probably a quite close to complete version of the game. We've been showing two major things, really. Well, our first announcement was that this is our next open world game, our new open world game. The last game we made, Hot Pursuit, was a little more closed off. This game is our first open world game since Burnout Paradise back in 2007. So obviously we were looking to be influenced by what we did before and also go one better, because that was kind of a very revolutionary game. We make racing games. We've made racing games for 12 years, and we took on Need for Speed to change things up, to shake that bottle up and deliver something new. Gaming has changed along the way since we started making the first Burnout back in 2000. Hot Pursuit was our first Need for Speed game 2 years ago. This is our second one. So what are we going to bring to the table? Well, at Criterion, we're about freedom. We love exploration. We like friends to be at the heart of any game that we make. We like connectivity, online, offline, asynchronous play. One of the things we're doing that we showed for the first time, that we showed in our press conference, is the fact that, unlike almost every other racing game that's ever been made, we're putting nearly all the cars in the game world right from the off. So from the first minute you play this game, if you can find the car, you can drive it. Racing games have had a long history in our business. They've evolved to the point where normally you start off with a slow car and have to spend a long time to get a fast car. Well, we decided to throw that convention out the window. We like to break the rules at Criterion. So in the new game, if you can see it, if you can find it, you can take it, you can drive it. Whether you're playing on PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 with Kinect, using voice control, you can just say cars, Lamborghini, Aventador, and it's there for you. Switching cars is really fun. We call it jacking the car. So for the first time in Need for Speed, you can drive around the world and get all the good cars right from the off. However, there's 10 cars that you can't access. We call them the Most Wanted cars. If you remember, there was another game years ago called Need for Speed Most Wanted. It was the first game I ever played on Xbox 360. In that game, you had this thing called the Blacklist. The premise of the game was become Most Wanted and beat the Blacklist. Well, in our game, our cars are white. So the Most Wanted cars are all white. They're beautiful. White's a hot color. We couldn't call it the Blacklist. And that game was of its time, right? It was more offline than online. It was more single player rather than multiplayer. And we've changed, and things have come a long way this way. And we believe in Criterion, we love to play with friends. So we want to put friends in the game world as well. And that's why we invented our system called Autolog, which we introduced back in Hot Pursuit. But now we have the new version of that, Autolog 2. And it's a much deeper and a much richer friends comparison than we've ever done before. If you're familiar with Hot Pursuit, that game only compared one time. Whereas now we're comparing and showing you what your friends have done, because I want to be influenced in any game by what my friends have done. I guess traditionally gamers have said that game designers have said to the player, you must do X, Y, and Z, and that's all you can do. Whereas in 2012, I want to do whatever I want. I want to do it whenever I want to do it. That's me as a person, but that's also me as a player. We call it, Microsoft called it the remix generation. You know, the world of YouTube and instant media and Twitter and Facebook has changed everything that way. So why should the games be restricted? I want to do whatever I want. And I want everything, so just give it to me. So that's what we're doing with cars. The second thing we're talking, go on, sorry?
So my natural question there is how do you sort of build progression for the player if you're sort of opening everything up? How do you...
The premise of this game is become Most Wanted amongst your friends. So you and your friends have your own progression. So that's unique, that's personal to you. So the progression you'll have between you and your friends is different to my progression. There is a more traditional progression in the sense that I can take any car, and there's a group of races that you can do in that car. And if you complete those races, you'll unlock modifications, and you can apply them to your car in any order. That's changing how the power of the car, that's maybe making it lighter, making it stronger, applying off-road tires, applying reinflatable tires, applying boost to the car. If it was a Burnout game, all the cars have fire shooting out the back of them. In this game, the cars start out because they're real cars, they're natural cars, but you can unlock boost as a modification, which will help you drive faster if you drive dangerously and aggressively. So the progression is really, it's your progression. You can start in a different car to me. You can drive around the city. You can start different events to me. So we're just trying to change things up a little.
Obviously, Autolog is sort of like that was a revolution for the whole industry, I think. I think a lot of people are looking at what you did with that in Hot Pursuit. and now obviously you're expanding on that. Sort of, what do you feel that it was about that you really hit a note with gamers and really sort of struck home?
I think people like competition, and they like personal competition, and playing with your friends makes it personal. So I think that's what Autolog was about, social competition. Here's our video game, but again, this is what your friends have been doing. So in the new game, we're putting your friends in the game as much as possible. Everywhere you drive, Autolog is pulling that data and comparing with your friends what they've done, what cars they've driven, how fast they went, how far they jumped through this billboard. We'll even put your friends' faces in the game world, so you could drive around and see all your different friends scattered all over the city. Then you can smash the car through their picture. Then the next time they play, they're going to see your face on the billboards. Gaming has always been a social activity. For me, my friends, how we play together in the office. That's why we put friends at the heart of the game. We just want everyone to share the experiences that we've had with the rest of the world. It's a connected world out there. So that's why we love multiplayer games. Some games now, I mean, personally, I don't play the single player at all. I go straight in and play the multiplayer. So Autolog was a big project to take on. It was hard to make because nobody understood it while we were making it. It was something that you had to try and experience when the game was finished. It was very hard for us to talk about because it had never been done. And a few people are starting to look at that and understand that. But we've barely got started, really. Autolog and some of the underlying code behind it is a very powerful system. So I think, if anything, we'll be bringing a much deeper and richer comparison as we go forward. But we just like playing with friends.
So open world has its own set of sort of challenges for making a racing game, and I think you did it with Burnout Paradise. But how do you sort of set a thing that where you design a level or a race to make sure that players can sort of, how do you design that city to sort of make sure that you can take a few different routes and you're not sort of, if you take a wrong turn, you're completely out of it, and that you sort of, how do you
philosophy on this city, on the philosophy of making this city, the original Most Wanted was a East Coast setting. Hot Pursuit was West Coast. The universe of Hot Pursuit is make it look like a car advert, a beautiful car on a California highway by the sea. Most Wanted, the name implies something a little bit more gritty. So our city, Fairhaven, is a East Coast, more autumnal, more industrial feeling. But the design philosophy there is that we believe racing has to go beyond the road, right? I like to drive off-road, I like to take shortcuts, I like to jump the car. And our design philosophy on this game has been about building a city, an open world, where the player can drive under, over, and through buildings. I like to connect from one thing to the other. I like to get off the track. There's no barriers in this world. It's still truly open. I don't believe that we should be driving around and hitting invisible walls. That's why the whole game is open from the start. You're free to go wherever you want. But that's really our philosophy. It's to allow me to put the car in all sorts of different places. If you watch our trailers, you'll always see that the cars can be in some strange places. I think that's because we're big fans of the Italian Job. And when they drive on the top of that Fiat factory in Turin, I just think we always wanted to do that, right? We like that. So it's got to be more exciting than driving around a track, because I've done that for 20 years now. Let me jump from building to building and drive through some sewers.
So you pretty much made Need for Speed franchise your own now with these two games and sort of all that things. But I think fans, they still want to know what's up with Burnout. And do you have any message to fans out there?
All I've said at Gamescom is that I think about it all the time. And as I said at E3, that's my first game, that's my first love, it's how I got started. It's what made Criterion, right? We've still got black and white. It makes me very proud that it says Criterion under our logo. It represents the last 12 years, so Burnout built this. It'll be back. If you watch any James Bond film, at the end it used to say James Bond will return. And we used to put that. If you go back and look at the end credits of Burnout, I think 1 and 2, it'll always say the Burnout team will return. Burnout team will return.
And of course, it's important that even though you have some Burnout DNA in this is not Burnout. So this is a different type of racing game.
This is not Burnout. The cars don't barrel roll. Not all the cars have boost. But that DNA is within us, you know? That DNA is within us. So I don't mind. People say, I think the game looks like Burnout Paradise. Well, to me, it'd be very different when we get to make a Paradise 2, if we ever do that. But that's our DNA. We like driving fast, we like speed, we like crashing, we like traffic. It's in our DNA, that's who we are, we can't change it, right?
I'm very much looking forward to whenever the next Burnout is out. And thank you very much for your time.
I'd like to hear that. Thank you very much. Good to meet you.